My name's Emily Hart, and I haven't been back to my hometown in almost 8 years. That wasn't some fluke or temporary break. It was a decision. Firm, painful, and final. Like cutting a cord with a scalpel. I moved to Seattle when I turned 23, and since then, any contact with my family boiled down to the occasional letter from my dad and the occasional, "Are you okay?" text from my younger sister, Brooke. But last week I got a phone call. Brooke's voice was shaky. "Em, Mom doesn't have much time left. You need to come, please." My mother, Joan Hart, was made of steel. And not in a good way. She was the kind of woman who'd guilt-trip you for getting sick on the day of a family dinner. To her, success only counted if it looked exactly like the picture she had in her head of a proper life. And if it didn't, you were a failure. Period. So I got in my car and started driving back to Willow Creek, Virginia, a town that always felt more like a trap than a home. Small, quiet, with the same bakeries, churches, and trimmed lawns I used to dream about escaping when I was a teenager. Coming back here felt like stepping into a life I'd abandoned mid-scene, and now I was being pulled back on stage without knowing my lines. The radio kept picking up all kinds of static: country songs, fire and brimstone sermons, local farm reports. I grabbed a cup of coffee from some random gas station along the way. Bitter as hell, but at least it was hot. It jolted me back to the one thought I was trying to avoid. I was going to have to face her. When I pulled up to the house I grew up in, it hit me like a gut punch. Nostalgia and dread, twisted together. The place looked the same. 2 stories, light gray siding, that old peeling fence, and the front porch Dad always said he'd fix but never did. Brooke met me at the door. She's 25 now, but looked like she'd lived 2 lifetimes since we last saw each other. We didn't hug, not because we didn't love each other, just we didn't know how anymore. "She's asleep," Brooke whispered, holding the door open. "Doctors say it's down to days, maybe hours." Inside the house, everything was eerily quiet, not just because no one was talking, like even the walls were holding their breath. It was all still there, like a time capsule of our family. Framed photos where we all looked younger and way happier than we ever actually were. Dad's worn-down armchair, Mom's shelf of self-help books. Women of power, Mother's wisdom, raising a leader. I walked into the bedroom. There she was. Joan Hart. Even on the edge of death, she looked like someone still trying to run the room. Hooked up to machines, oxygen tube in her nose, and still gripping the blanket like she had something to prove. I sat beside her. "Hi, Mom." Her eyes opened, barely. She stared through me at first, but then something shifted. Did she recognize me? I couldn't tell. "You came back," she whispered. "Finally." That word, finally, stabbed right through me. Like I'd owed her my silence all these years. Like showing up now was settling some debt I didn't agree to. She tried to lift her hand, but didn't have the strength. I took it. It was ice cold. She started. "I wanted, just do it right." She broke into a cough. I adjusted her oxygen tube out of habit. Family should be together. I didn't know what to say. Should I forgive her, comfort her, tell her that her picture-perfect version of life had pushed me out of this family like I never belonged? "Just rest," I whispered. "I'm here." And she closed her eyes. Brooke was waiting out in the hallway. She said softly, "After the funeral, we'll need to figure out what to do with the house. And with Dad. He's not really present anymore. Barely leaves his room. He says you've always been the strong one, that you can handle it." I let out a short, bitter laugh. Yeah, I handled it. When I was 16, and Mom staged a full-on intervention because I wanted to go to art school in California. When I hid my scholarship letter under my mattress because she threatened to tear it up if she found it. Yeah, I handled it, by running. Brooke looked at me with that look all big sisters know, that silent plea, "Please don't leave again. There's something we need to talk about," she added. "Things have changed, especially with Dad, and there's something you need to see." "What is it?" She hesitated. "It's better if you see it for yourself." I always knew there were doors in this house that were better left shut, some literally, others, the kind inside you. But when Brooke said, "You need to see it for yourself," I felt it in my bones. One of those doors was about to open. Dad was sitting in the kitchen, wearing that old flannel robe I remembered from my college days. He looked frail, empty eyes, spinning a cup of coffee in his hands like he forgot what it was even for. He used to be the funny one, the dad who told wild stories and sang Elvis songs in the garage. Now, it was like someone turned off the lights inside him. He said without even looking up. You've grown, barely recognized you. I sat down across from him. Brooke said you wanted my help. He nodded slowly. Things got hard. Ever since your mom got sick, I tried to keep it together. But this house, it's like a cage, and I'm tired of being the guard. I looked at him, really looked, and something clicked. He was a prisoner, too. All these years I thought he was just part of Mom's control machine. But now, he was just a tired man, worn down by years of silent surrender. Brooke told me there's something here I need to see, I said quietly. Something you both kept from me? He didn't answer, just pointed toward the stairs. The room at the end of the hall. No one's opened it since you left. I felt a chill run through me, even though the house was stuffy. That room, it used to be mine. Until that night, the one that changed everything. I walked upstairs. The floor creaked like it was warning me not to. The door wasn't locked, but it should have been. I pushed it open, and the smell hit me like a wave. Dust, old air, and something else. Time, maybe. Everything looked frozen in place. My old desk, my sketchboard with pinned-up designs, the windowsill where I used to sit and dream about New York. But that wasn't what stopped me cold. On the wall across from the bed was a massive board, like the kind you see in crime shows. It was covered in printouts of my old artwork, photos from college, screenshots from my website, articles about my shows, all connected by strings, arrows, scribbled notes. In the center, a portrait of me from my design portfolio. And above it, a sheet of paper with a single phrase, "My daughter is running from her destiny." A chill gripped my spine. "What the hell?" I whispered. Behind me, Brooke's voice broke the silence. "She was tracking you. For years. Every move you made, even when we thought you were gone for good, she never let go." I turned to her. "Why? Because you were her project, her trophy. She used to say, 'Emily is my greatest investment.' And when you left, she decided she could still fix it. Like you were just temporarily off course. I didn't know what was worse, that my mother turned my life into a personal mission, or that my father knew and said nothing." "Dad knew?" Brooke nodded. "He tried to stop her. But Mom was always stronger. After you left, she had a breakdown, threatened to sue you for abandonment, wrote to your college, then started watching online. She had folders, journals. I hid a bunch of it before you got here." I sank down onto the carpet. It felt like the weight of that whole damn wall was pressing down on me. "I thought I left. I really thought I escaped." "You did, Brooke said softly, "but she never let you go. Not for a second." We sat there in silence. The room I once used for drawing and dreaming was now a tomb filled with someone else's obsession. I knew in that moment if I was going to move forward, I had to do what I should have done 8 years ago. "What are you going to do?" Brooke asked. I looked at the board. "First, burn that wall, then talk to Dad. I need to know what else she kept hidden, and what's left for him and for you after all this." Brooke nodded slowly. "There's more." "What now?" She reached under her shirt and pulled out a thin chain. At the end, a key. "It's to Mom's safe. She called it her legacy. I never opened it, but I think it was meant for you." I barely slept that night. Every creak in the house, every groan of the old floorboards sounded like ghosts coming back to life. It felt like the room I was lying in still belonged to her, my mother. Even after I tore down that cursed watch wall and shoved it in a trash bag, the scent of lavender she used on the bedding lingered like a haunting. In the morning, I walked into the kitchen. Dad was in the same spot, same old flannel robe. This time, he was sipping water instead of coffee. His eyes were bloodshot, but he was the first to speak. "She really believed she was helping, like she was saving you from yourself." I sat down across from him. "And what about you?" He looked off to the side. "I believed you'd be okay without us, that your freedom mattered more than her pride." I didn't know what to say to that. Maybe in another life, we could have been close. But now, all that stood between us were years of silence, and one woman who called control her way of showing love. An hour later, Brooke came back from the hospital. "She's in a coma," she said softly. "Doctors say it won't be long. If you want to say goodbye, now's the time." I nodded, but something clenched tight inside me. I wasn't sure if I wanted to say goodbye. or if I just wanted to leave before she had the power to get the last word. Not yet, I said. The safe first. Brooke led me to the basement. We went down the steep stairs, past shelves stacked with dusty jars of jam, old tools, and boxes full of childhood junk. In the far corner, behind an old dresser, sat a heavy metal safe. Small but solid. The key trembled in my hand. She really called it her legacy? I asked. Brooke nodded. Said one day you'd understand, that you needed to know. The key was stiff, but it turned. Click. The door creaked open. Inside were three things: a thick folder tied with twine, an envelope labeled for Emily only, and a small redwood box. I started with the folder. Inside, documents, but not my diplomas like I half expected. No, these were letters. Dozens of them. Letters I had written as a kid, a teen, even in college. Some I didn't even remember writing. Letters to my best friend, to my uncle, even to the art school I dreamed of attending. She intercepted them, I whispered. Brooke nodded. And she made copies, took notes, see the margins? On some letters were handwritten comments: support, too emotional. Remove mention of California. Control social circle. This wasn't just tracking me. This was sabotage, intentional manipulation, a full-blown strategy to keep me in check. Next was the envelope. My hands shook as I sliced it open. Inside was a letter from my mother. Her handwriting was sharp, controlled. Emily, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone, or close to it. I don't know if you'll even finish this, but you need to hear it. Everything I did because I was scared. Scared you'd disappear. Scared you'd forget where you came from. Scared that in the big, wide world you'd become someone I didn't recognize. You were always stronger than me, freer. And yeah, I tried to hold on to you, not out of cruelty, out of fear. Forgive me if you can. And if you can't, just know I loved you. I just didn't know how to show it any other way. I finished reading and handed the letter to Brooke. She wiped her eyes. She really didn't know how, she said. I spent my whole life trying to please her, stayed in town, went to the local college, did everything by the book. And you know what? What? I still never felt like it was enough, because she never wanted me. She wanted you, always you. I opened the last box. Inside was a locket, a tiny medallion shaped like a key. It opened to reveal a photo: me, Mom, and Dad. All three of us, sitting on the porch of this house. I'm on her lap, smiling straight into the camera, happy, or at least, still unaware of what it means to become someone's project. I set everything on the table. We're burning it, I said. All of it. Except the letter. That's the only real thing she left behind. Not a scheme, not control, just her. Brooke nodded. And after that, I took a deep breath. I'll go see her, one last time, not to forgive, just to say goodbye, for real, like you do with a person, not with a villain. Hospitals smell like bleach and exhaustion. Time kinda stops here, and every sound echoes, like the walls are whispering. You're gonna have to let something go. I walked slow. Not because I didn't know where I was going. Brooke had already texted me the room number, but because everything in me resisted getting there. All the things I ever wanted to say to my mom were still burning inside me like an old wound that never healed. But now, with her caught somewhere between life and death, there was only one thing left to do: be honest. Not for her, for me. The room was quiet. Sterile white walls, machines humming, an IV dripping slow. She looked small, like a fragile outline of the woman I remembered. Eyes shut, skin pale and thin, her gray hair pulled back in that same tight bun. Needle marks on her arms. The monitor next to her beeped steadily, like it was counting down the last pieces of her. I sat down next to her. Silence crashed over me like a wave. I'm here, Mom, I said softly. No reaction. I placed my hand on hers. It was cold. Dry. You were right about one thing, I said. I did get stronger. I swallowed. But not because of you. In spite of you. The monitor kept beeping, steady as ever. I kept going. You built your love like a prison, turned care into surveillance. And our family? It was all checks and balances, like some kind of system you had to control. You called it good parenting? Real love? But it was just control. Always control. My throat tightened. I spent 8 years pretending I left you behind, pretending you were just the past. You stayed with me. In every choice I second-guessed, in every voice in my head that said I wasn't enough, I heard you. Even when you weren't there. I gripped her hand tighter. I didn't come here to forgive you. I don't even know if I can. And honestly, I don't think you'd care. I paused, took a breath, but I came to say goodbye. Not to the version of you that planned out my life like a business strategy, but to the woman who held me when I scraped my knee, who sang to me during thunderstorms, the one who maybe, at some point, actually loved me, in her own twisted way. She didn't move, just the tiniest flutter of her eyelids. I couldn't tell if it was real, but my chest tightened anyway. I stood up. I'm leaving now, but I'm not running anymore. I'm going back to my life, the one I chose. I was halfway to the door when I heard it. Not a word, not a sound, just a breath, barely there, like wind in a sealed room. I turned around. Her eyes were open, barely, but open. She was looking right at me. Her lips twitched, like she was trying to speak. I leaned in closer. "What?" I whispered. "What do you want to say?" She struggled to breathe, then finally got out. "You didn't break." My eyes filled with tears. I took her hand and just held it. No words, no explanations. Because sometimes the last word isn't about blame or forgiveness or winning. Sometimes it's just a moment of truth, even if it comes way too late. An hour later, she was gone. The doctor said it was peaceful. For me, it was the end of an era. When I walked out of that hospital, I didn't feel heavy. Not anymore. I felt quiet, not empty, just the kind of quiet that comes after a storm. That night, Brooke and I burned it all. The letters, the copies, every file. As the flames took what she called her legacy, I watched it burn and thought, this isn't forgetting. This is cleansing. When it was all gone, we just sat on the porch. The night was thick and warm, summer heavy. "What are you going to do now?" Brooke asked. I looked out into the dark. "I'm going back to New York, starting a new show. My own stuff this time. No fear, no ghosts. What'll you call it?" I smiled. "Legacy, but mine." It had been a week since the funeral. Mom was laid to rest in the family crypt, right next to Grandma, the one I could barely remember. The service was quiet. A few old friends, one neighbor, our former pastor. No tears, no shared memories. It felt like her death was just another date on the calendar. I stood next to Brooke and Dad. We weren't holding hands or hugging, but we stood together. And that was enough. When it was over, we stayed behind at the cemetery. Just the three of us. The wind played with the hem of my black coat. I looked down at the gravestone. Patricia Lynn Baker. Mother. Wife. Architect of destinies. Architect of destinies? I repeated softly. Go figure. Brooke looked over at me. I told the engraver not to put loving mother. It felt forced. "Thank you," I said. Later, back at the house where it all began, the three of us sat out on the porch. Dad poured us coffee, a ritual from the old days that somehow made sense again. I watched him, the man who used to hide behind silence. Now he was trying, saying something, even if just a little. "I always knew," he said. "You two were different. I just didn't know how to help. Patricia, she was like a train. You either got on board or you got run over." He gave a bitter little smile. "I chose to ride. You jumped. And I fell for a long time," I sighed, "but I landed." "What about you, Brooke?" he asked. She shrugged. "For a while I thought staying meant I was weak, but maybe that was a choice too, just a different one." She turned to me. "If it's okay, I'd like to come to your show, see what you've become without her." I didn't expect that. Something warm clicked inside me, something that felt like family. "I want you to be there," I said. "I want you to see, because, at some point, you broke free too. Even if you stayed." New York met me differently this time. I didn't scan for signs of control anymore. I wasn't afraid that someone's judgment would be a sentence. At the gallery where my show was held, the walls were white and clean, like blank pages waiting to be written on. The name of my exhibit was Legacy, but under the title, in small type, it said, "And everything we choose to carry with us." One of the biggest paintings was about Mom. Not a portrait, it was abstract, a dark silhouette dissolving into bright light. Not a threat, just an outline. Not the focus, just the background. My curator asked, "Is this someone important?" I said, "Someone who spent way too long writing my story." The opening night was packed, strangers, fellow artists, critics, but I was only really waiting for two people. Brooke flew in on the evening flight. She stood by the wall, quietly taking in each piece. Then she came up to me. "It's like reading your journal," she said, "but without words. And still, I get it." I hugged her, a real hug. No tension, no holding back. Dad didn't come, but he sent a bouquet with a note. "Proud of you. Sorry it took me this long." That was enough. Later I stood by the window. looking out over Manhattan. The traffic lights, the rhythm, the people with coffee cups and tote bags, endless motion. I didn't feel like a prisoner anymore. I felt like a part of it. Like a crack in the pavement where something green had started to grow. My phone buzzed. A text from Brooke. "I'm in the cab. Thanks for letting me in, even if the door was only open an inch." I replied, "It wasn't just open. I took the lock off." And standing there at my exhibit, I finally understood what it meant to be Emily Baker. Not someone's daughter, not someone's project, not a glitch in someone else's plan. Just me. Free, strong, my own.